Welcome to True Crime Cases, where we delve into the darkest corners of human nature. River Oaks looked like something straight out of a luxury real estate magazine, with its perfectly aligned maple trees and sprawling Tudor-style homes on this crisp autumn morning. Stella stood on a wraparound porch, coffee mug in hand, admiring the gleaming diamond ring that now adorned her finger at 28. She had everything she'd ever dreamed of: a thriving real estate career, a beautiful home, and now, the perfect fiancé. Carson was everything a woman could want. Tall, well-dressed, and charming. He carried himself with the confidence that came from managing millions in other people's money. His custom suits and magnetic smile made him stand out, even in River Oaks, where success was as common as the imported cars that lined every driveway. "Another beautiful morning," Carson said, appearing behind Stella. And wrapping his arms around her waist, he was already dressed for work, his cologne mixing with the morning air. Big day ahead: 3 client meetings and then dinner with the Robinson account. Stella smiled, those. Something in her stomach tightened slightly at how often these client meetings had been running late into the evening lately, but she pushed the thought away. After all, that's what successful people did. They worked hard. Across town, Detective Arthur sat at this desk in the Major Crimes Unit, staring at his computer screen with growing disbelief. A Facebook notification had popped up. "Stella's engaged." The photo showed her beaming next to a man Arthur knew all too well, though the name attached to the picture wasn't the one he remembered from their college days. "Everything okay?" his partner asked, noticing his frozen expression. Arthur couldn't tear his eyes away from the screen. Carson, man in the photo, had been his roommate at State University 11 years ago, except back then he went by a different name, and he disappeared during their senior year under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a string of heartbroken girls and empty bank accounts. "I need to pull some files," Arthur said, his voice tight. He typed rapidly into the database, searching for patterns he prayed he wouldn't find, but there they were: reports from 3 different states, all with the same methodology. A charming financial advisor, different names, but always the same face, warming his way into wealthy social circles back in River Oaks. Stella was showing a luxury property to a young tech executive. Her heels clicked against the marble floors as she highlighted the home's features, but her mind kept drifting to the wonderful future ahead. She and Carson had planned a spring wedding at the country club, followed by honeymoon in the Maldives. "The security system is top of the line," she explained to her client, typing in the code just like the one Carson had insisted on installing at their home, the one he'd said was necessary to protect their future together. Meanwhile, Arthur was connecting dots he wished weren't there. His office wall now displayed a timeline: 5 different cities, 5 different names, all leading to River Oaks in each location. The pattern was the same: gain trust, build relationships, then vanish with thousands in investments. "Carson, old friend," Arthur muttered, studying a surveillance photo from 2 years ago. "What are you planning this time?" The autumn sun was setting over River Oaks. Stella pulled into her driveway. Carson's car wasn't there. Another late meeting. She found a note on the kitchen counter: "Working late again. Sweetheart, don't wait up big deals in the works." Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Stella, a serious voice, asked, "This is Detective Arthur. We need to talk about Carson. Or should I say Carson Morrison, or maybe Carson Matthews. We've got a lot to discuss about your fiancé." Stella's perfect world was about to shatter, but she didn't know it yet. As she stood in her magazine-perfect kitchen, holding her phone with trembling hands, the real story was just beginning to unfold in River Oaks, where nothing was quite as perfect as it seemed. Standing at his office window, Arthur watched the city lights flicker on. He knew the next few weeks would test everything: his investigative skills, Stella's strength, and the facade Carson had so carefully built. But for now, all he could do was wait and hope he wasn't too late to prevent another victim from falling into Carson's carefully constructed web of lies. In River Oaks, the evening settled in like any other, but beneath the peaceful surface, a storm was brewing on that would soon expose how easily perfection could crumble when built on a foundation of deception. The next morning hit Detective Arthur like a freight train, sitting in his dimly lit office, surrounded by case files and coffee cups he couldn't shake. The image from his mind, that Facebook photo of Stella, kept haunting him, her radiant smile next to Carson's perfectly practiced grin. The same grin Arthur remembered from college right before everything went wrong. "Hey Arthur, you've been staring at those files for hours," Detective Quinn called from her desk. "What's got you so wound up?" Arthur rubbed his tired eyes. "Remember that series of investment scams we heard about from the Denver office? The ones targeting successful women, yeah. The charming financial advisor who disappeared with their money, never caught him right." Arthur pulled up the case files on his computer, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Look at this, Denver 2020. A wealth manager named Carson Matthews, then Phoenix. 2021, Carson Morrison." He clicked through surveillance photos, each showing the same face, with different names, and now my old college roommate shows up in River Oaks as Carson engaged to one of the city's top real estate agents. Quinn wheeled her chair over, her eyes widening as she looked at the photos. "Wait, you actually know this guy?" Knew him. 10 years ago, he was just Carson from State University. Always working, some angle always dating, the richest girls on campus. Arthur's voice grew quiet then. Right before graduation, 5 students reported their savings were gone. Carson vanished. We all thought it was just some college scam gone wrong. The pattern was becoming clear as day in each city. Carson targeted successful professional women, particularly those with access to wealthy clients. He'd pose as a financial advisor, build trust over months, then convince them to invest in fake development projects. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, he'd be gone along with hundreds of thousands of dollars. Arthur pulled up Stella's social media profile again. Her latest post showed her and Carson at some charity gala, champagne glasses raised in a toast. The comments were filled with congratulations and heart emojis. Nobody saw what Arthur saw: a predator sizing up his next target. "I've got a warner," Arthur muttered, reaching for his phone. Quinn grabbed his wrist. "Slow down, Arthur. You need solid evidence. This guy's smart. He's evaded 3 state investigations. One wrong move and he'll disappear again." She was right, and Arthur knew it. Running his hands through his hair, in frustration, he started building a timeline on the office whiteboard. Red markers squeaked against white as he connected the dots between cities, dates, and dollar amounts. "Look at this," he said, stepping back each time he stays in Acity for exactly 19 months. Gets established, builds relationships, picks his targets. Stella's engagement photo was posted 2 months ago, which means he's right on schedule. Quinn finished River Oaks as his next big score. Arthur's phone buzzed, a text from Stella. Accepting his friend request, his stomach tightened. As she scrolled through her photos, there was Carson at a business lunch, at a charity auction, at a client appreciation dinner. Each image showed him getting closer to River Oaks' wealthy elite. "The investment seminars are always the final step," Arthur explained, pointing to a flyer in the Denver file. He convinces his targets to bring their wealthy friends to learn about exclusive investment opportunities. By the time the art date arrives, he's gone with all their money. Quinn nodded. "So what's our play?" Arthur stared at the timeline, his mind racing. If they moved too fast, Carson would vanish like smoke. If they moved too slowly, Stella and who knows how many others would lose everything. And underneath it all was the gnawing question: how had his former friend become this calculating predator? "First, we document everything," Arthur decided, pulling out a fresh legal pad. "Every photo, every session, every dollar. Then we contact the other jurisdictions, build a solid case. And then Quinn prompted. "And then I have the hardest, innocent woman who thinks she's found her perfect match." The office fell quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the scratch of Arthur's pen against paper outside his window. River Oaks glittered in the distance, beautiful and oblivious to the storm that was about to break over its perfectly manicured lawns. Time was running out, and somewhere within those gleaming streets Carson was setting up his biggest score. Yet, unless Arthur could stop him first, Detective Arthur. "These just came in from Phoenix," Quinn announced, dropping a thick stack of files on his desk. Arthur had barely slept in the 3 days since discovering Carson's engagement photo. His office wall now looked like something from a crime TV show, covered with photos, sticky notes, and red string connecting the dots. 5 victims. Coming forward, Quinn continued spreading out the file. All successful businesswomen, all with the same story. Arthur picked up the first file. Catherine Reynolds, Phoenix, 2021, lost $76,400 in a supposed luxury condo development. He moved to the next one. Jennifer Quinn, Denver, 2022, $84,000 gone in a premium retail space investment. The pattern was crystal clear. Now each victim's statement read like a perfectly rehearsed play, with Carson As the charming lead actor, he'd appear at high-end charity events, designer suit, and winning smile in place, always had the right connections. The perfect references. Look at this conversation of my career. Within Quinn pointed to a document he even created, fake investment brochures. Professional quality, complete with 3D renderings of buildings that never existed. Arthur's computer pinged with a new email. Great timing, financial records just came in from Denver. His fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up bank statements. Wire transfers, all following the same timeline. Small investments at first, building trust. Then the big asks always. Just under 100. Source 00. Smart, Quinn noted, keeps it under the radar of major fraud investigations. Arthur pushed back from his desk, rubbing his tired eyes. He's gotten better at this each city. The scheme gets more sophisticated. The Carson I knew in college was running amateur scams. This is. He gestured at the wall of evidence. This is like watching someone perfect their craft. A knock at the door made them both jump. Captain Reynolds entered, looking concerned. Arthur, Quinn. Tell me. You got something solid? Just got a call from Stella office. She's hosting a luxury property showcase next week. Guest list includes half of River Oaks' wealthiest residents. And let me guess, Arthur said, pulling up Stella's social media. Her charming fiancé is giving a special presentation about investment opportunities. Bingo, you see why I'm worried. Quinn quickly outlined their findings. 5 confirmed victims. Across 3 states. Total losses approaching $500,000. He's using a mix of romance and investment fraud. Gains their trust through relationships, then convinces them and their friends to invest in fake property developments. The showcase would be perfect. Arthur added all those wealthy potential targets in one room, plus their friends' recommendations to back up his credibility. One problem, Captain. Reynolds frowned. We don't have enough for an arrest warrant. Everything's circumstantial. And these cases cross state lines. Arthur stared at Stella's photo on his wall. She was smiling, standing in front of a luxury home. Carson's arm around her waist. Everything she'd worked for was at risk, and she didn't even know it. There's something else, Quinn said quietly, holding up a bank statement. Stella's account shows unusual transfers starting 2 months ago. Small amounts at first, but growing. It's already starting. Arthur muttered. Hune's testing the water, seeing how much he can take. Captain Reynolds studied the evidence wall. Okay, here's what we do. Arthur, make contact with Stella. Don't reveal everything, but enough to make her cautious. Quinn, coordinate with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. This crosses state lines now, as they outlined their plan. Arthur's phone buzzed with another social media alert. Stella had posted a new photo. She was holding up an elegant invitation. You're cordially invited to an exclusive investment opportunity. The caption read, special presentation by renowned financial advisor Carson. Time was running out in 1 week. Carson would either score his biggest payday yet, or finally face justice, and Stella's future hung in the balance. One more thing, Captain, Reynolds added from the doorway. Watch yourselves. Someone this careful, this calculating. They don't like being cornered. Arthur nodded, turning back to the wall of evidence. Somewhere in this web of lies and stolen dreams was the key to stop Carson. He just had to find it before it was too late. The investigation was about to enter its most dangerous phase, and in River Oaks, the clock was-ticking. Stella sat in her home office late into the evening, her normally organized desk now cluttered with bank statements and investment documents. The conversation with Detective Arthur kept playing in her mind. At first she'd been angry at his suggestions about Carson, but now this can't be right, she muttered, highlighting another suspicious transfer. 300 here, 5,000. They're small enough not to raise immediate alarms, but they were adding up. Her hand trembled slightly as she totaled the amounts. $47,000 in just 2 months. Her phone buzzed. Carson's text read, late meeting with investors. Don't wait up, sweetheart. Big things happening. Stella opened her laptop and pulled up the Harvard alumni database. After Arthur's visit, she'd started doing something she should have done months ago, checking Carson's credentials. Her stomach tightened as she typed in his name. No matches. Found. She tried variations. Carson Mills. Nothing, must be a database error, she whispered to herself, but her voice lacked conviction. She grabbed her car keys. It was 9:00 p.m., but she had to know. 20 minutes later, she pulled up to the address listed on Carson's business cards. Fairso, Preston Tower, Suite 405. The building was dark. A security guard approached her car. Can I help you, ma'am? Yes, I'm looking for Carson Investment Financial Corp. Suite 405. The guard looked confused. Suite 405, that's been empty. For 2 years, building's under renovation. Stella felt the blood drain from her face. She managed to thank him and drove away, her mind spinning back. Home, she started really looking at the investment documents. Carson had given her clients the letter, had looked perfect, but something about the formatting seemed off. She pulled up legitimate investment documents from her real estate work for comparison. The font's wrong, she realized, and these registration numbers. A quick check online confirmed her fears. They were fake. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Carson: just landed in Houston, quick client meeting tomorrow. Back by dinner. Stella's hands shook as she opened her tracking app. She and Carson shared locations. His idea, he said so. They'd always know each other was safe. According to the app, his phone was still in town at the Rivers Country Club. She called the club. He's Susan. It's Stella's Carson there by any chance? Oh, honey. He just left with some potential investors. They were talking about some exciting new development project. Stella's world tilted sideways. No Houston trip, no late meetings, just lies. She spread everything out on her dining room table. Bank statements, forged documents, fake business cards. Her engagement ring caught the light, no longer looking like a symbol of love, but a prop in an elaborate performance. Her doorbell rang, making her jump through the security camera. She saw Detective Arthur. I think I owe you an apology, she said as she opened the door. And I have something you need to see. Tom K's face was grim as he studied the evidence she'd gathered. Stella, there's more of those late-night calls. We tracked them. He's been in contact with known money launderers. The charity gala next week, Stella said. Suddenly, he's been pushing everyone to bring their checkbook, saying he has an exclusive investment opportunity to announce. It's his pattern. Arthur confirmed. One big score before he disappears. Stella, how many people are on that guest list? She pulled up the file on her phone. Over 50, some of the wealthiest families in River Oaks. We can't let that gala happen. But if we move too soon, he'll disappear again. Stella finished. Her voice grew stronger. So we don't let him. I know every person on that guest list, every potential victim, and now you know the truth, Arthur said quietly. Stella looked at her engagement ring one last time. Yes. And I know exactly what we need to do to stop him. Outside, the sprinklers clicked on watering her perfect lawn button side. Stella was preparing for war against the man she'd thought washer. Perfect match. The stakes only the futures of dozens of innocent people who still believed in Carson. Elaborate web of lies. The gala was 5 days away. The clock was ticking. The River Oaks Police Department's conference room buzzed with activity. Detective Arthur stood before a wall of evidence, briefing the white-collar crime unit that had flown in from 3 different states, thanks to Stella cooperation. We've got eyes inside, Arthur explained, pointing to surveillance photos she's maintaining. Normal appearances while we build our case. Stella sat at her usual table at the country club's Sunday brunch, smiling and nodding as Carson charmed their friends. Her engagement ring felt like it weighed. Oh, sure is you. But she kept her composure perfect. Every conversation was now being recorded through the tiny device hidden in her purse. The Riverside Corporation project sounds amazing, she heard Mrs. Hamilton gush. We're definitely interested in investing. Stella's heart clenched. She wanted to scream a warning, but instead just sipped her mimosa. They had to let this play out. Back at the station, Agent Lisa Chen from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit burst into the conference room. You need to see this, she announced, pulling up bank records on the screen. We found another target. He's working simultaneously. The room fell silent as she explained. Amanda Foster, gallery owner in the Heights. He's been meeting her under the name Carson Milton, posing as an art investor. She pulled up surveillance photos showing Carson at Thai-End Gallery's champagne and handworking. His charm, classic parallel scam. Arthur muttered. If one falls through, he's got backup. The evidence-mounted hourly bank records revealed a pattern so systematic. It was almost beautiful in its complexity. Money moved through shell companies, each transaction carefully timed and disguised as legitimate business. Look at this. Quinn pointed to a timeline. Every victim's story matches perfectly. The charm offensive, the small investment tests, then the big push right before he vanishes. The door opened and Captain Reynolds entered with a laptop. Previous victims' testimonies just came in. 5 women, 3 states, all telling the same story. They watched in silence as faces appeared on screen, each sharing Their devastating experience, he was so believable. A boutique owner from Denver said, wiping tears, by the time I realized the investment was fake, he'd vanished with my entire savings. Stella's voice came through Arthur's phone. Carson just left for another business meeting I planted. The tracker, like you asked. Arthur pulled up the GPS map. The blinking dot moved not toward downtown where Carson claimed Toby heading, but toward the Heights, straight to Amanda Foster's gallery. Got you, Arthur whispered. The investigation team worked through the night, building an airtight case. Stella's evidence proved invaluable: photos of forged documents, recordings of investment pitches, bank transfers showing the money. Trail the Gallus tomorrow night, Stella reminded them during their final briefing. He's got over 50 potential victims lined up, all ready to invest in his fake development project. That's not going to happen, Arthur assured her. He turned to the team. Everyone clear on their positions. Remember, this guy's smart. He slipped away before we get one shot at this. Stella returned home that evening to find Carson waiting with champagne. To us, she smiled, and to tomorrow night's big announcement. She clinked glasses with the man she thought she loved, forcing herself to smile. To tomorrow night, she code thinking of the surveillance teams getting into position, of the FBI agents preparing their operation, of the trap about to spring shut. Later, alone in her bathroom, stared at her reflection. Just one more day, she whispered. One more day of pretending. Her phone buzzed with a text from Arthur. Everything's ready. You okay? She typed back a single word: ready. In the conference room, Arthur looked at his team. Tomorrow night, we end this, not just for Stella, but for every woman he's ever scammed and every person he's planning to target. Next, the pieces were in place. The evidence was overwhelming. Tomorrow night, Carson's perfectly crafted world would finally come crashing down, and in River Oaks, where appearance meant everything, the biggest facade of all was about to shatter in spectacular fashion. The grand ballroom at Rivers Country Club sparkled with crystal chandeliers and expensive perfume. Stella stood at the entrance, greeting guests in her designer dress, playing her part one final time. Carson worked the room like a master conductor, his charisma drawing people in. Ladies and gentlemen, Carson announced, tapping his glass, thank you all for coming to this exclusive investment opportunity presentation. The hidden camera in Stella's necklace transmitted everything to the FBI command center set up in a nearby surveillance. Agent Chen watched multiple screens, nodding as Carson began his well-rehearsed pitch. Tonight, I'm offering you a chance to be part of something extraordinary. Carson continued, clicking through professional-looking slides. The Riverside Heights development project promises returns of up to 300%. Arthur adjusted his waiter uniform, moving quiet through the crowd with history. Other undercover agents were positioned as bartender security guards, and guessed they'd tracked every penny of the $875,000. Carson had stolen across state lines. Tonight it would end. Stella's heart pounded as Carson reached the crucial moment. Investment packages begin at $100,000. He smiled. And for our special pre-launch investors in this room, I'm offering an exclusive rate. Actually, Stella stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. I have a different announcement to make. Carson's smile flickered for just a moment. Sweetheart, maybe we should wait. I don't think so, Agent Chen said, stepping out from behind a pillar badge. Raised Carson, or should I say Carson Matthews, Carson Morrison. How many names have used? The room erupted in gasps as FBI agents emerged from their positions. Carson's eyes darted toward the exits, but they were already covered. We have documented evidence of wire fraud across state lines, Agent Chen continued. Identity theft, investment fraud, and theft totaling $875,000 from victims in 3 states. Carson's charm vanished like smoke. Stella, he hissed, what did you do? She helped us build an airtight case, Arthur said, removing his waiter's jacket to reveal his detective's badge. Every conversation recorded, every fake document tracked, every dollar traced. The guest watched in stunned silence as Carson was handcuffed. Mrs. Hamilton clutched her checkbook, realizing how close she'd come to becoming his next victim. Your Harvard MBA was fake. Stella stepped closer. Your office was empty. Thanks for watching True Crime Cases.